For 5 years, I've done a camp in the summer called Camp Build, and it's with the Girl Scouts that brings girls from kindergarten through high school in for camp for a number of days where they do hands-on construction projects. The first year we had kindergartners spot welding, which sounds terrifying, but was so amazing.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk podcast, our regular discussion with building industry professionals. This is Fine Homebuilding contributing editor and production manager at TDS Custom Construction, Ian Schwant. Today, I am joined by Sandy Thistle and David Abreu. You can find the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. You can leave feedback and ask questions there too. Sandy and David, great to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
So today we have an instructor from the Madison College Carpentry and Remodeling program here with us, and Sandy, and we have one of the graduates who's gone on to a nearly decade or approaching decade career in the business, right, David?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So, Sandy, can you give us an overview of the carpentry program at Madison College, just some background of how it started and what it offers students like David and program goals?
Yes. So the construction and remodeling program at Madison College has been around for quite some time, long before I was ever here. I'll talk about the most current iteration, which was really built up by Ali Bereni, who worked for TDS. So about 17 years ago, she was hired as the program director and sole teacher, kind of like a one-room schoolhouse situation where Ali taught all of the classes. And over the last 17 years has really built the program to be what it is now. Currently, there are 4 full-time instructors, a full-time lab coordinator, and quite a handful of part-time instructors to supplement. And we have both program classes and community classes that are offered. So there's a lot going on in this building all the time. The program is a 1-year technical diploma, and it is designed around residential home construction. So in the 9 months really that our students are here, they learn how to build a house from start to finish. We build a house every year with those students. And Eric Donovan, who also worked for TDS, is our designer. So he often designs those houses. He's also program director right now. And we sort of, we give everybody the foundation, how to use the tools, framing, exterior trim and finish, and interior trim and finish, and then a number of sort of accessory classes that will help them be a well-rounded carpenter. For example, they get the basics of estimating, they get some construction science. I teach a class that's all about foundations and what happens before you get to the mud sill. Layout and such. We offer construction math and communication, plan reading and drawing class. So a whole selection of coursework designed to really prepare them for the field. Now, some of our students go on into residential remodeling companies. Some start their own businesses, and some of them go into commercial apprenticeship. It just really varies.
The commercial apprenticeship background, that's where I got my start, and I got a chance to sit in on one of the estimating classes with John Stefani, who was featured also in Keep Craft Alive on the back page of Fine Homebuilding recently. And I was really struck by the level of engagement of the students. Is that typical of most of the students who take on a pretty quick 9-month program to learn some trade skills for making a living?
I can say that I feel like our instructors are amazing. We all have different strengths, and over time, as we get much better at this, I would say our students are also much better at this. And we get the range from super young 17-year-old folks who come in to, I don't know, I think the oldest person we've had is about 71. So it varies from year to year. And we have an incredible breadth of experiences people come from before they come to us. And I feel like the better we deliver, the better they are at studenting. Did that
Sure.
answer your question?
Yeah, it becomes self-selecting at a point, right? You're getting back what you're putting out into the community.
Yes.
Sure.
So, David, what drew you to the program at Madison College, and how did it prepare you for your career in the field?
Sure. What drew me to the program was how hands-on it was. There's a lot of things like Sandy said. We built the home from the foundation up. Well, from the floor joists up actually. And I just thought that learning something like that will help me, with my career and carpentry skills. And I had a little bit of experience in construction, but nothing like what they showed me here in the program. So it was very helpful moving forward into my career. So also, learning residential and commercial construction. There's things in commercial we don't know or we don't use in residential. So it was good to know a little bit about both sides on that. Um, those skills, just help me utilize my skills in the field to put out more projects quicker, safety, safer, and those are the things that kind of help me in the program and in my career. There's one tool that I kind of use all the time, daily, on a daily basis, which is a miter box, miter saw. And yeah, if I wasn't able to learn what I learned in this program, probably wouldn't I probably wouldn't have any fingers. Or probably, there's all those factors. So safety it was a big deal in the program for me. So, mhm.
So, back up a little bit and tell us about the career that you've had outside. Sandy had mentioned that she was going to get a former student on, and I honestly expected somebody who was maybe a more recent grad, but you've been out in the field for quite a while.
Well, I am going to
Yeah,
interject
I
here,
actually,
sorry, and
sure,
say
sure.
David has recently started teaching with us part-time.
Oh, that's great.
So it's full
Yes, yeah,
circle.
yeah, yeah, which is awesome. It's been great since, I've been here working with Sandy and the other instructors. So, mhm.
So, yeah,
But
what's your
I've
career
been
been
out in
like?
the field. Yeah, I've been out in the field. My career about 10 years. Before I started the program, I did a little bit of remodeling work with my father, learned a couple little skills from him, and did some remodeling work with him. And then I was kind of left on my own there, and then that's when I went into the program. But afterwards, 10 years in trim carpentry, working for the same company, local company. We work within the Dodge County, and it's been a great experience with them. I was able to grab what I learned here and put it into play there, measuring, and using different tools, hand saws, and if it's been quite an experience. It's been pretty great so far. So yeah,
Yeah.
since I've got out of the program, so yeah. Mm-hmm.
In my experience, it's hard to jump on and be a trim carpenter in a production setting like what you work in without having that background. I had a very similar career
Mm-hmm.
trajectory out of my apprenticeship. I was lucky enough to do something very similar to what you're doing, and I couldn't have done it without the
Okay.
schooling that I had either. So, what were some of the other
Mm-hmm.
experiences that you had as a student that prepared you for that and gave you confidence in your abilities?
I was a student employee here for maybe the last couple months that we were finishing up the program. So that gave me a little bit of confidence because I got hired by Sandy and the other instructors in the class. I was like, oh, okay, well, I know something, a little something. And then I wanted to learn more about safety. I'm kind of a big I'm afraid of heights. I'll tell you that. And it's good to be able to learn how to anchor something up on a roof. Especially out here in the winters in Wisconsin. It's good to know how to anchor something on top of a roof and harness yourself and make sure you have fall safety. Learning how to put up a ladder, and it not fall on you. Things like that. It was those simple things were a big deal to me because that was like heights was my biggest worry. So now that I know that these safety class kind of went through how to get that all set up and how to maneuver it properly and mount it up at the right spot and and harness yourself down and how it protects you when you fall. It was good to learn that stuff. So that was my thing, learning from this program too. So
That's a great point. And Sandy, I think you'd agree that
Mhm.
oftentimes if somebody just starts off in the field, those background kind of safety related things, a lot of contractors aren't good at teaching those. You want to get right to the production and making money for the name on the truck as soon as possible. Is where did that focus come from within the program? Was that something
Well,
that you or Allie noticed as being needed by the students?
I wasn't here. I've been here 13 years, so I don't know what the first 5 years were like in terms of what exactly was offered. But since I've been here, for most of the years, we've actually offered an OSHA 30 card that our students are required to take. And like much of what we teach, our focus is on doing the work. And so you can go online and take an OSHA 10 and get an OSHA 10 card, but in my mind, that means nothing realistically, because A, you're not going to remember, and so when we teach our safety class, we are taking the students out, we're setting up scaffolding, we're setting up ladders, we're coaching them through it, as well as the classroom part of it. So it one of the things that we've really shifted toward too is that when I first started here, a fair bit of our delivery in terms of checking competencies and how people are doing was to do a written test. And we found over time that there were students who maybe really didn't quite come to this easily and maybe weren't suited to the field at that point in time. And so over the last 10 years, for sure, we've really shifted to at least 50% of what they're getting checked on. They are doing the activity. Okay, you need to bend some drip cap. And that is how you're getting evaluated versus can you answer some questions about drip cap? Right. And I feel like that's the right trajectory. We want to produce carpenters who can go out there and do the work. We don't really, I mean, we're supposed to care, but I don't care if they get an A, B, or C or whatever. What I care about is can they do it whenever I give them the task? And so really coming from that angle more now.
And
And
talking to
and and
some of the
And also to add to what you said, I too come from commercial construction, unlike the rest of the full-time faculty here. And it's one of the big things I've noticed in terms of the difference is that small residential contractors really slip under the radar as far as any um, overseeing organization like OSHA. And the large contractors, the ones I worked for, which were union contractors, followed the letter of the law really well because they had a whole lot more to lose. And I feel like bringing that mindset to the residential industry is a good thing because we want people to last in this industry. And sometimes people are going to ask them to do things that really are stupid. And we want our students to know that's too much, you can say no, or how do you do this thing safely?
right, and one of the things I've noticed with your graduates that work for us at TDS is they come in with a little bit of that understanding of where the uh, maybe where the bar is located when it comes to safety. So they are not going to do kind of the cowboy stuff that maybe my contemporaries who taught me 20 something years ago in the field would have expected out of me. So I think that's pretty important to have that idea of safety in their mind when they get out in the field. And another comment that I routinely get from graduates is, I learn best out in the field, tools in my hand, pressure on, doing the work. So for you, David, how was that transition from doing the hands-on coursework? How did that help you when you got out into the field?
Sure. I mean, obviously, you always deal with unexpected obstacles. Sometimes running into issues with like framing, and house settling and things moving on their own, and you run into obstacles all the time. So, it's a little bit of a difference. I'd say not much, but it's a little bit of a difference because of those issues. You don't run into that in the program all the time. They teach you how to handle those situations, obviously, but you don't run into that in the program. So when you get out there, you kind of got to know, what to do, how to solve this issue, and make it so that it's obviously part of what you're framing with the project you're doing. So yeah, and then also dealing with deadlines. Deadlines is a big issue. You only have a certain time frame to get it done. Like in class, they're obviously a little nice to us, but out in the field, you don't really have, you have a deadline, and customers or your boss even expects that to be done, when expected. So trying to get enough work done in between that time too, in between your deadlines. So you got to kind of time yourself. You got to kind of, get enough work done within that deadline also. Um, like me, I like to kind of focus on quality more than quantity. It's kind of a big thing for me. I mean, you can knock out a bunch of work, but if it's crappy work, it's gonna fall down. It's gonna, So, but you do good quality work. You got a happy boss, or unless you're your own boss, you're putting good work out there. You get a call back, you get a, so you know, we get used to, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got to get this done, and we kind of got to put a little bit more time into our quality of work. Just so a customer or boss or you're happy with your own work. So a couple of differences, but I say overall, like the program, it's preparing you 100%. So
What are you finding now coming back as an instructor that you can bring to the students, since you're doing both, right? You're teaching and you're
okay.
doing. So what do you offer
Mhm.
your students from that perspective?
Yeah. So, I guess being out there, also working, like you said, I can just, bring in, like, I'm there right now at the moment. I see what's going on out there. I can bring it to you right now because that's what I'm dealing with in my project where, out in the field. So, yeah, I say that would be a good answer to that. Yeah.
We have
Mhm.
one recent graduate. He's been with us a little bit over a year. His name's Ethan, and whenever we have one of the interns come and help, and Ethan's on the job, he's like the guy who's right there to put his arm around the intern and be like, yeah,
Mhm.
this is how you did things in school. This is how we do them here. It's a little bit different, and he's kind of
Mhm.
doing that
Mhm.
same sort of motion that you just talked about, but in the field, which is really neat to see.
Mhm.
Someone who's
Mhm.
very early in his career kind of taking that lead like you're doing right now.
We have
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we have responded to some of that because it's, obviously we notice things with our students. And one of the things that we've gotten better at is saying, here's this task. You're going to finish this cornice detail. And this is how long it should take you to do this detail. So we're getting a lot better at giving them parameters, not just have they met the goals in terms of their accuracy or what it looks like, but have they done it quickly enough? And it can be sort of a tricky battle because there are some people who are such perfectionists and I count myself in that category in the
Mhm,
past.
mhm. Yes.
So it's still to some degree this balancing act of what is good enough, and when do I need to dial it right in, and when do I just need to get this
Mhm,
done because they're not paying for that
mhm,
quality, and my job is to get it done.
mhm.
And we do talk about
Yeah.
some of that stuff, but mostly we're trying to create an environment that feels comfortable and safe to learn in, and a safe place to make mistakes, frankly, because making mistakes is part of this process, and often they learn more from that than some of the other things that, us telling them things, they're going to get more from seeing that they did something that doesn't quite work and redoing it than us saying, oh, that doesn't work. Yeah.
Right, they're not going to gain anything by one of you guys running out and telling them, no, 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 don't do that unless it's a safety type issue. They are going to get more from maybe making a few mistakes and having to go back. And it's something that you made the point earlier, Sandy, about the differences between commercial and residential contractors. Many of the commercial contractors I've worked for, there was a little bit more of that latitude to make mistakes as a lower paid apprentice. And I just haven't seen that since moving over into the residential space. So it's been important for me as a production manager to try and create that, like, nobody ever learned anything from constant success. So you're going to get out there and you're going to make mistakes, but I want you to tell me what you learned from that mistake and how you're going to do it differently.
Well, and it's tricky because the financial cushion for a small residential company like TDS versus the cushion that a Findorf has,
Sure.
there's a big difference there. Certain mistakes are going to do in the company in a way that Findorf just doesn't quite worry about in the same way.
Yeah. I like to joke that we would be a rounding error on their vehicle budget. Our yearly revenue for a gigantic corporation like that. But speaking of the contractors, what are some of the things that the program does to stay tuned in to what contractors like TDS or other ones in the state are looking for?
Well, one of the first things that we do is we invite you to be on our advisory board, and we have advisory board meetings at a minimum twice a year where the contractors are our main body who come to that meeting, and we tell them what we're up to, the new and different things that we're up to. We get their feedback. We ask them what's going on in the field. If we have some innovation that we're curious about, we'll say, so for example, the total station, right? I come from commercial people. That's all people use. Every year I say, oh, so are you using the total station yet? And they're like, no. And so there doesn't seem like it's a smart move for us to spend our resources teaching them something that isn't really they're not going to use out there. So our advisory committee is we lean on them heavily, and they're a fantastic group of people. Additionally, in the second semester, we are sending our students out on internships, and we have a person who came up through a union apprenticeship, had their own business, started the Restore here in Madison, who is a very social person and very connected to those businesses, who lines up internships for our students. And so Jen Wojcik really maintains those relationships. And it's one of the reasons that we lined her up to do the internship organization, because she is so good at networking. And a whole lot of introverts in this office, believe it or not, we're not so great at that. Um, so and then we have students go out into the world and be carpenters, and we stay connected to a lot of our students. And I sort of feel like over the 13 years that I've been here, there's a network of recent graduates and long ago graduates, and we're building this community that's connected by having gone through this program. So I think all of that plays into it, and some of those students go off and start their own business and remain connected to us. So I feel like we're really pretty looped in, especially with Eric Donovan as a recent hire. Like he's pretty, and John Stefani and Allie, they're pretty connected.
Yeah.
So I'll ask this of both of you. What is the program doing to put an option of a career in the building trades in front of a wider audience that might not have this type of career path on their mind when they're trying to figure out what to do post high school?
If you like to go,
Okay.
Sandy. Definitely.
Um,
Mm.
I feel like this is a personal question in the sense of I can speak for me and I think for Allie that when we were looking into what it is we were going to do with our lives as young people, this really wasn't on the radar, um, and and that's sort of part of what motivates us so much. Is for me, this career has been an unbelievable and positive fit. Like it is the job that was meant for me, and I just feel grateful that I found it because I could easily not have found it. And and so fundamental to everything we do is increasing access. And not just increasing access, but also creating a community and an environment where folks who aren't your traditional construction workforce feel like they matter and have something to contribute. Um, and so there are a whole lot of things that we do along those lines. A is really reaching out to the non English speaking community, reaching out to girls, reaching out to, you know, I'm going to say the stereotype of folks in construction, if a person can't be academically successful, you kick them off to the tech ed schools or programs, and really developing and connecting with super smart people who do this work and trying to spread the word that breaks those stereotypes. This industry is filled with really smart, creative thinking people. And I feel like it offers room for everyone in between, right? So maybe you struggle with math. There are jobs here that you can do. Maybe you won't be a superintendent or a foreman, but jobs you can do here that there's a need for. And on the other end of it, I've worked with some ridiculously brilliant carpenters. And so there's room for everyone. And I think reaching out to other communities that are often left behind and creating an environment that feels safe and supportive. I think those two of the biggest things.
Yeah,
And
one of the things that you said really kind of struck a chord with me because I went to a very small rural high school at kind of a changing point in the way education was done. We didn't have computers where I went to high school, and I tried to go to a small junior college, and I like to say that they sent me a letter 2 months in and said, "It's not us, it's you. You don't belong here. You should get a job." And I bounced around for a while and found the building trades and ended up going through the apprenticeship and through that met a lot of people who uh, took me under their wing and taught me a lot of things. And one of the early memories that I have was of working with a guy who was maybe 15 years older than me, and it was payday, and I was happy to be getting paid what I was, and he was a full union journeyman, and he showed me his paycheck and he said, stick with it, and in 3.5 years this will be what you're making. And it was like the biggest paycheck I'd ever seen. So it really motivated me to understand it as a true career path.
yeah, I mean, I can't, I'm smart enough, but I do not belong at a desk. And when it comes to doing the work, oh yeah, I can be on it. And
Yeah.
there's room for
Mhm.
lots of us folks.
Yeah.
Have you found that similarly, David, in
Yeah,
your
I
life
agree.
experience?
Yep, I agree. I agree. Like she said, the community too is getting to know everybody and kind of utilizing what they know and putting that getting ideas from them and passing ideas around and all of that. I love that part of this field. We're able to pick up on different skills, and nobody's kind of better. I'm better than you, or it's just like I'll help you learn. I'll help you. Yeah, and then you use those skills that I taught you, and then use it and make your own. you know what I mean, make your own, come up with ideas, you know. So yeah, I would agree with that. You know, regardless where you're from, your background and your age, you know, these skills will benefit you. So, you know, it's uh,
I'd really like to add that one of the things that's been missing in this industry is a broader view and that each of us who don't look like a traditional construction worker bring things to the whole that it needs, and
mhm,
to be sort of stereotypical, I can say overall women have great communication skills, and a whole lot of the folks in
mhm,
the construction industry are not known for their communication skills. And so if you can get a person who
yeah.
has the hands-on skills and the knowledge and can communicate and interact with a client well, like that's something
Mm,
that's needed out there. And so, really going
yes.
beyond the traditional construction workforce and inviting in people who have more to offer that the industry needs, like David.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
what are the things that contractors can do to be more welcoming to, women, minorities, other, people who don't normally end up being tradespeople? Because it's a really difficult hiring market, and many contractors are out there looking for anybody who's willing to do the work, but I'm not sure that we're always looking in the right place.
Go ahead, David.
I'd say maybe, you know, just open, broaden your perspective on everyone. You know, sometimes, you know, some of the women, I would say, will knock us out of the park. You know, they'll blow right past us on their work and 10 times better than we are. You know, so, you know, I say broaden your perspective. You know, there's anybody who's doing, you know, this type of work has skill, you know, has some type of skill, you know. So if contractors broaden their perspective, you know, you might grab somebody that's a golden, you know, a golden ticket for you. So, you know, and help your business to succeed. So
So I want to add a couple things. Thank you, David. Um, one
yeah.
is that it's I'm gonna say so one of the things that I do is for 5 years, I've done a camp in the summer called Camp Build, and it's with the Girl Scouts, that brings girls from kindergarten through high school in for camp for a number of days where they do hands-on construction projects, and we had the first year, we had kindergartners spot welding, which sounds terrifying, but was so amazing. And
Well,
some of those middle schoolers, you put a circular saw in their hand, those middle school girls, and they blow doors because they listen really well. They're paying attention. They look out for each other. There are a whole host of things that they offer. So I think um, creating more opportunities like that for folks. I also think that, and supporting those sorts of initiatives as employers, I also think that it's a tricky business, right? Because we don't want tokenism. We don't want. I don't want to be the only woman working for a company. On the other hand, I'm going to say I'm perfectly fine with that at this point in my career. Um, but when you are the only one who looks a particular way, it's like you're a yellow balloon in a room full of purple balloons. Everyone is paying attention to you, and they're judging you based on
yeah, yeah.
some of the things that they might be more forgiving about with someone else, one of those purple balloons, they might not even notice. And that often you see what you're looking for. So if you're expecting someone to fail, that's what you're going to see. And I like to think that a lot
Mhm.
of the residential contractors are much more savvy than that, but it's been a long haul getting things to change, um, and really being supportive and answering questions and providing the kind of support and learning that people need. So all of those are part of it, and really not putting that person who's a little different than everybody else with the biggest asshole in the company. You know?
All right.
Am I allowed to say
Yeah,
that?
Well, we'll find out. Uh,
yeah.
I think what you said
Try to
about
fit it
putting
in. Huh?
putting a skill saw in the hands of a middle schooler or a young girl, I think is great. It normalizes working with tools and normalizes doing the work that they may not be accustomed to seeing someone who that they feel looks like them, or they have a familiarity with doing that kind of work. And the idea of familiarizing people with working with their hands much early on is, I think, a really great idea, regardless of who the person is.
Exactly. And one of the awesome things that we've done the last few years, and I believe your Allie Dwyer was involved in this. With the high school age girls, we bring in tradeswomen to work with them almost one on one on community projects. So they're in a situation where they're working with women who do this work as an example.
Yeah, I think it's such a great opportunity for people who have gone through the program to then give back and even start to develop their own sense of community within the tradesperson community. I'm assuming, David, you probably had this experience of, the first time after learning some trade skills and then going back and teaching them to somebody else is a really cool experience, right?
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely. It's you you pick up so much, and then you try to teach it to some of the students here, and you kind of you don't realize how much you did pick up. You know what I mean? And it feels great to kind of see them. The things that you would think that everybody knows, and then they're sitting there like, wow, I'm so glad you taught me that. That's something that makes me feel great too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, my good friend Andy Engel, who got me into the media end of this, used to like to say that we're all part of the continuum, and that's such a huge
Okay.
part of how these trade skills continue to get moved from generation to generation, and it really becomes the kind of thing that makes you live on beyond your time on this planet. I think it's a cool thing that we get to do to the next generation of tradespeople.
Absolutely.
What excites you guys about the future of the carpentry program at Madison College, and even just the future of the industry in general?
I do want to add having David join us as a teacher. I mean, that makes me a little
Yeah.
verklempt, but it's
Uh,
like the circle coming back around. Here is a person that came through the program, went out into industry, and is coming back and sharing their up-to-date knowledge with folks, and there's something kinda special and awesome about that. Um, but go ahead, David. I have more to say, but go ahead.
well, 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 it's because of you guys that I was able to get this far. Yeah, man, it's been great. You know what I mean? I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to try and show what I know, which I don't feel like I know anything, but everyone's telling me I do. So I said, okay, I'll show what I know, and hopefully it can help students advance into what they want to do for their career too. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you. John and Allie and all the instructors here. I feel very welcome. So yeah, thank you very much.
I do have to say, David, I also want you to
uh,
take some credit because not every person who goes through this program ends up where you are, and that's got a lot to do with
I know, I
who
know.
you
It's been a
are.
full cycle. It's been it kind of fell in my lap, to be
Well,
honest with
not
you.
exactly.
Out there, I'm just, you do your job and you go kind of home. You know what I mean? It's not boring, but you do your job, go home, and then you run into other instructors. You live in the same kind of community and stuff, and so you end up, like John. I kind of helped him on his house, so it kind of kept us communicating with each other over the years. And every once in a while, I saw Sandy, or I had to stop at the school for something, and we kept how do you say, connection. We kept it connected, and then all of a sudden they came to me with this, and I'm like, oh wow, I would have never I never thought I would be in this position to be able to do something like that. So, yeah, it's been very great.
Not everybody can
Hmm.
teach, and what I mean by that is, for me, there's a certain passion about the industry and the work, that not everybody feels, and an ability to share that passion and to welcome people and be
Hmm.
excited about the work, and that's just not everyone.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think a
And
lot
I
of
love what
people
I do.
listening to
So,
this are gonna feel like this discussion, especially the last couple of minutes, stands in stark contrast to the kind of general zeitgeist of cranky old construction
uh,
workers sitting around complaining about kids don't want to work, nobody wants to
talk.
do this, you can't find anybody.
Hmm.
But you guys are really
Hmm.
portraying a very different side of the industry that I hope more people get to realize is out there. You just have to, as you put it, broaden your perspective a little bit when you're looking for those next generation hires, right?
Yep. I
Absolutely,
worked with a whole lot of people who would throw their hard hats and yell and scream, and the good part about that is it
absolutely.
helped me develop thicker skin in a way that I completely
Hmm.
appreciate. Um, but it just doesn't need to be that way to get good carpenters out of the industry.
So, David, what
Yeah.
advice do you have now for your students who are seeking that career in the building trades? What little nuggets do you have for somebody to help them, maybe get a couple of steps up on the next prospective hire?
Well, I'd say, everybody gets a little nervous at the end of, getting, how do you say, out of this program and try to get in the field and everything. And they don't know if it's, how do you say, if there's any opportunity for them or, so, that's what I thought when I graduated out of here. But, towards the end of, getting to our graduation day, I just thought I put myself out there, as an example. I thought I put myself out there, and that's kind of what you got to do. You kind of just got to throw yourself out there, let people know that you have skills. You're a working person. You want to, learn and also show what you know, and I think that there's a wide range of areas where all these, also what we're learning from the program, all these skills come in handy, also in your home and exterior interior work. So there's plenty of opportunity. Give it a try. Get out there, give it a try. Put some applications in if you can, and getting these credentials under your belt too through the program would open up, like I said, another wide range of opportunities for you. So an employer or a company kind of sees your resume or your education, and they see you have this also. This is a major plus for you. Major plus. It gets you opening the door. Okay, so I say give that a try, and yeah, hopefully we see you here at the program.
What about you, Sandy? What advice would you throw out there for somebody who wants to have this career?
Okay, so this is a plug, it's not a piece of advice. We would love to have a national presence because I'm nearing retirement age, and we are an amazing program and people don't know about us. And so
Mhm.
I just need more folks to know about what a gem we are, because I really think we are. The faculty are so committed and passionate and care, and we've learned a lot about how to be good at teaching people. Um, but advice: you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're half-assed about it, that's what you're gonna get out of it, and if you put I
That's where
mean,
you're gonna
we were
get
talking
put.
about this today with a student, like, sweeping, it's such a ridiculous thing, and you can think it's a demeaning thing, and it can be, but if I'm gonna sweep or I'm gonna do some fancy joint, it doesn't matter, I put the same thing into all of it because I love this,
Yeah.
right? So, you get out
Hmm.
what you put into it, be brave. It takes some guts to do this work, or you learn to be stronger doing this work. Build a support network. especially if you don't look like your traditional construction worker, whether it's family or other people in the industry or whatever, build yourself a nice support network. And I know this is easy for me to say at this point in my career, but don't take shit, right? Speak up for yourself. And, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things wrong, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean it's okay for somebody else to treat you like you're no good, right? And there's enough people in the industry where you can find respectful coworkers and learn and
Hmm.
love what you do and find that. You can find that. And if you're really good, the door's open. And really good doesn't
Hmm.
mean, oh, you have all the skills in hand. It means you want to do this and you're
Hmm.
dedicated to doing it well.
Yeah, those
I
are
agree.
all great pieces of advice. And I have to say, in my Remodelers Advantage group, where I'm with a dozen other people who do what I do for a living from all over the country, when they're all complaining about, oh, we can't find anybody, hiring so hard, and I can say, well, we have Madison College and 4 or 5 other tech programs all
That's
churning
right.
out carpentry graduates every
Hmm.
year. So, you just get in with them and you get a few people, and they're ready to learn.
Well, and we are still innovating. So, for example, a small residential contractor came to us and said, what about creating sort of an informal apprenticeship where I pay the tuition
Hmm.
and then we figure out an agreement where this person's going to work for me for X amount of time? And we're right at the beginning stages of that,
Yep.
but coming with new ideas about how to do this. And that same contractor has a majority women on the crew and they're willing to try something different.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the story
Hmm.
of the industry going forward. And it's been great having you both on. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience, or point them to any more information about the program or more cool work other graduates have done?
Go ahead, David.
Well, as everybody was saying, I'm the new instructor here, so I would like to see some new students and get more people in and show some of my carpentry skills and maybe learn some from the students too. So please, we're here. I'm here. I'm new. I'm a little shy too, but I'm getting used to the whole thing, and it's a great experience. So yeah, I would like to see some faces here and more students in the class, and and yeah. So, and thank you for the opportunity here on Fine Home Building. So, thank you, Ian. Mhm.
And I say get in while you can because we are growing and getting better. And now's the
Yeah.
time and we want you and we're going to teach you.
Well, it's been great having you both on, and just want to thank Sandy and David for taking the time to join me today. And thanks to everybody for listening. Please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. Please like, comment, or review us wherever you're listening. Helps others find the podcast. Keep craft alive, everybody. And thanks again for listening.
Thank you, Ian.